Hello and welcome back to Viper Bytes, the only show out there where the host has a face for radio and a voice for the silent pictures, a true dynamic double threat. That's who I am. I'm Matt Donnelly, and I'm here to take you through some of the training camps that are going on here. We're only a few short days away, but there's some serious battles going on, and we're going to head to the NFC North, where we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions, the Mineesota Vikings, and the Green Bay Packers, and the battles in camp that you're going to want to pay attention to and help your fantasy football rosters going into 2021. That said, we're not going to keep a whole lot on the introduction here. We're going to get right into the meat and potatoes here. We're going to head down to the Windy Cindy right off the get-go and talk a little bit about the Bears.
Under center, handing off Montgomery on a cutback, picks up the first down. Still going, turning his legs across the 25 near the 28-yard line on a run of 8. 8 more for the Bears in the run game.
Motion man is Cohen. Trubisky looks. Trubisky, a threat to run, floats it to the outside. It is caught by Montgomery. Montgomery makes a move upfield and brings it to the clear. Touchdown Bears. Trubisky kept the play alive, and then Montgomery did the rest after the flip.
How good is David Montgomery? Even he was able to make Mitch Trubisky look good, which is no simple task. Very few people can do that. Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, end of the list. Now, Darrell Mooney would have made him look a little bit better if Mitch Trubisky could have hit him within even 5-10 yards of any kind of pass, but that's not going to happen. But Darnell Mooney is going to have a big season because he may have the red rifle chucking him the ball on a wing and a prayer, or he's going to have Justin Fields, the rookie out of Ohio State, there to make those plays for him. I know Chicago fans, you're dying to see Justin Fields get on the field. He slipped in the draft. Bears were able to get him. Huge thing going on. Chicago was happy. There was talks about Carson Wentz maybe coming to Chicago. Whoever is available, Chicago was tied to them. You wanted them. You had to improve on Mitch Trubisky. It couldn't have got any worse than Mitch Trubisky last year. I like Mitch Trubisky. Seems like a good guy. Great smile, but not an NFL quarterback right now. Maybe a couple years of seasoning in Buffalo. Maybe that'll kind of fix him a little bit, but we'll see how that turns out. Now, we want to get down to the big battle because Andy Dalton was signed by the Chicago Bears, and right off the get-go, the coach speak, the GM speak, it was all about Andy Dalton is our guy. Well, we've heard about our guy several times when it comes to Chicago as far as the quarterback position is concerned, but then they went off and they drafted Justin Fields. So we know Justin Fields is the future of this franchise. But when does the future become the present? That's going to be the question that we're going to be looking for, and it's going to happen earlier than often. Opening night, prime time, Chicago, Los Angeles Rams, Aaron Donald. Ooh, this is a tough one. Do you really want to put a rookie out there, his first start with Aaron Donald coming down the middle, looking at him to crush him? Or do you want to start Andy Dalton in a primetime game? Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. If you recall last year, I had to drink a Big Mac smoothie because I put my faith in Andy Dalton during primetime. Never put your faith in Andy Dalton in primetime. Him and Kirk Cousins, if they're playing a primetime game, get him out of your lineup. Don't even think about starting him. But now we got Dalton, primetime, Rams, Justin Fields. Who is the go-to? Man, we're going to see what this training camp does. But at the end of the day, the Bears are going to have a good idea of an internal timeline when it comes to Justin Fields and his ability to step into that role right off the get-go. The self-described plan for Justin Fields. I really think off the get-go we're going to see Andy Dalton on primetime. Sorry, Chicago fans. It's not going to be pretty, but I think it might be the right call here. Now, I think Justin Fields is very possible he could start by week 2 because Andy Dalton prime time is not a good combination. But I don't know if they want to feed Justin Fields to the line. No, that's not it. To the Rams, they're not really carnivores. But Aaron Donald, he's a guy that I don't want to feed any of my young quarterbacks to because I might just give him a complex moving forward. So Andy Dalton, week 1. Justin Fields starts sooner than later. Make sure you get him. He's the real deal. Absolutely the real deal. Get him in that playbook. He's in there. He's one of the first guys in the room every day. He wants to be an NFL quarterback. He's putting the work in. So I'm going to put my respect and my faith in Justin Fields. Now, who's Justin Fields going to put his faith into? We know he's going to stock up on Darnell Mooney. We know Allen Robinson is stock up. Chicago, you got to find a way. You should have found a way to pay this man a long time ago, Allen Robinson. You got yourself a young quarterback. You want to give him a primetime number 1 wide receiver, and you're going to let Allen Robinson slip right through your fingers. Make sure, I don't care how you do it, find a way. Make sure Allen Robinson is going to be there for a long period of time. Now, as far as the other pass catchers go, the tight end position is something you got to really focus on here. You got Jimmy Graham, who's like 96 years old, stepping back. He had 50 catches last year on 76 targets, 456 yards, but 8 touchdowns. Mitch Trubisky was looking for him in the red zone, looking for him in the end zone. We were kind of hoping it'd be the end of Jimmy Graham in Chicago. Maybe Cole Kmet could step up and improve on those 28 receptions, 44 targets, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, the reason Cole Kmet was in there, he was asked a lot to block and run the short routes, and Jimmy Graham was getting those red zone targets. So if we can see Cole Kmet get some of those red zone targets, maybe a little bit of a bond with Justin Fields going forward, maybe they can form some sort of relationship. Cole Kmet, I think, is the guy here in Chicago. We know he's the guy of the future. I think he's the guy right now. I think this is the year that he passes Jimmy Graham. They took him in the second round. He was the first tight end selected in that draft just a couple of years back, and they have some seriously lofty expectations for him. But the Bears' offensive strategy didn't really support what Cole Kmet's skill set provides. Now, do they fine-tune that going into this year? I hope so. I think Cole Kmet has some serious value here. And even still, the snap count, so between Graham and Kmet, we talked about the targets being basically 44 to 76 and all those red zone targets being to Jimmy Graham. The snap count was darn near identical, with both of them logging about 58% of the Bears snaps on offense. So this is something to keep an eye on. We know Cole Kmet was coming on strong. He was getting a little more touch. Bringing a younger quarterback who needs that security blanket. I think Cole Kmet will be that security blanket for Justin Fields moving forward. Now, the big question is now in Chicago as well, who's that third wide receiver? We know Darnell Mooney stepped up to take that wide receiver 2 role. I want this to be Anthony Miller so bad. I loved everything out of him coming out of Memphis. I thought he was a Steve Smith-esque type player. Disrespected, 49 catches, 76 targets, 485 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.9 yards per carry, running a lot of it out of the slot. But what do they go off and do in Chicago? They go out, bring in Marquise Goodwin. They draft Daz Newsome, who's out with a broken collarbone right now, so he's going to take some time before he gets back in the lineup. Damiere Byrd, he's coming over. So it's really saying they didn't really have a whole lot of faith in Anthony Miller. We've seen that last year. It was almost like they hated him. It was, for some reason, they hated Anthony Miller. They did not want to get him more involved than he actually was. And it showed. And we can't really count on Jamaal Williams because he's probably going around punching people on the other team, so he's probably not going to have a very long season ahead of him. And Riley Ridley, sorry, man. Calvin's just killed it for you because you'll never be up to where Calvin Ridley is right now. And Riley, I'm sorry, but I got to move the Windy City. I can't even talk about Riley Ridley right now. So we're going to head to Detroit next and talk about the Detroit Lions.
It's on the back end.
Punt is blocked. Sanchez had the punt blocked. The Lions scoop it up, and Detroit will take over in great field position.
Andrew, just a moment ago, the Detroit Lions avoided disaster when their punter picked it up off the ground. Here you get a clean snap.
2nd down and 3. Stafford looking to the air. Has time. Fires. Caught by Jones. Touchdown. Marvin Jones takes it in.
I know I wanted to call this replacing Golladay. We talk about running back by committee approaches teams take, but they're losing both Golladay. They're losing Marvin Jones. There's all kinds of vacated targets here. TJ Hawkinson can only take so many of those targets. So what do the Detroit Lions do on offense? They trade away Matt Stafford. It's like, you know what, dude? You've been good to us. We can't put you through this another season. The only quarterback that we know that deserves to suffer through this is Jared Goff. So we'll take Jared Goff back in return. The wide receivers that he's going to be throwing to this year are Tyrell Williams. If you go back to his 2018 season with the Chargers and then his 2019 season with the then Oakland Raiders, he's averaged about 41 receptions, 652 yards, 5 touchdowns, 15.7 yards per catch. He missed last season, didn't play, so we did have to go back a little ways. Does he still have it? Is he still able to step up in that wide receiver. Well, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Is he a wide receiver 1 with Detroit? I don't know. If it's not him, it's got to be Brashad Perryman. Well, this keeps tasting worse and worse talking about these wide receivers. Brashad Perryman made some money with Tampa Bay going back to 2019. He came on late. He came on strong very late in the season with those 36 receptions, 645 yards, 17.9 yards per reception, and 6 touchdowns. But then he went to the Jets. Now, it's not really fair because a lot of things die when they go to New York. Especially to the Jets in recent memory. I'm glad to see the Jets are starting to, looks like their trajectory is going upward with what they've done this offseason. But the Jets in 12 games, 30 receptions, 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, 60 targets. That was not what the Jets were hoping for when they went out and they signed Brashad Perryman. But I think that's what you're expecting. I think that's who Brashad Perryman is. I think what we saw late in 2019 was kind of the outlier when it comes to Perryman's career. But let's take a look at some of these other targets that are going to be there for Detroit. Quintez Cephas. I don't even know if that's a real thing. Is that even a real name? I know I've seen him. It's on his jersey. I know he's there. I watched him. I've watched him play, but we're not going to go there. I'm not even sure what that is. But 20 receptions, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 games. He started in 2. He saw 35 targets. We know we wanted him to be a thing. We hyped him up a little bit last year as a sleeper. We're talking about him a little bit now as a sleeper, but really any wide receiver for the Detroit Lions is a sleeper when we talk about fantasy football. And then there's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He absolutely crushed it at USC, 178 receptions, 2,270 yards, 16 touchdowns, 12.8 yards per reception in his 3 years there. But I have trust issues. I have serious trust issues when it comes to fantasy football. And your brother Equanimus, whatever the other St. Brown is in Green Bay, he kind of wrecked it for me because I was so hyped out of him coming out of Notre Dame that it kind of left a bitter taste for St. Brown's with me. And Amon-Ra, I know what my film is saying. My film that I'm watching says you have all the ability and talent to be a wide receiver 1, to be an alpha wide receiver in the National Football League. That talent is there. It needs to be more consistent, in my opinion, for you to take that alpha role. But I think you can be a very valuable asset to the Detroit Lions moving forward. Man, I just felt bad. Maybe if we talk about the running backs, it'll make me feel a little bit better. Oh, yeah, the running backs. So we got DeAndre Swift. That's fantastic. We know that's going to fill in. He's going to be the man there. But what will the factor be for Jamaal Williams? Is there a more lovable running back in the National Football League than Jamaal Williams? He plays in the snow. He talks about the movie Frozen. He plays in a wet kind of game with a little bit of rain. He's talking about The Little Mermaid. These are his post-game conferences. You don't believe me? Pull up Jamaal Williams interviews or post-game interviews. The dude has this infectious laugh. You can't help but love him. So I love him in Detroit. I don't know what his factor is going to be. I know DeAndre Swift and the truthers for DeAndre Swift, and they're not going to appreciate Jamaal Williams being there. But here's the thing. Last year, Swift, 114 carries. He was able to get 4.6 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns there, and then factoring in 56 targets. In the passing game, 46 receptions, 357 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he had 10 touchdowns total. Very good use. Adrian Peterson, he's vacating 156 touches, 604 yards, 7 touchdowns. Throw in a little Kerryon Johnson. We talked about him previously when we were talking about the Eagles and the training camp battles taking place there. Kerryon Johnson had about 52 carries for 181 yards. So really we're looking at the vacated carries by Adrian Peterson at 156. We're looking at another 52. You're looking at about 205 carries that are going to be transferred somewhere, because we know that Dan Campbell, besides wanting to bite kneecaps, he wants to run the ball. He wants to give this team his image. He wants this team to be in his image. They want to be fighting. They want to be scrapping. Jamaal Williams had 119 carries, 505 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.2 yards per carry, added another 31 receptions. Basically, he was the DeAndre Swift of the Green Bay Packers last year with Aaron Jones. Now, I think this is really going to be close to a 60-40 type split. I think you're going to see DeAndre Swift pick up at least 100 of those, 200 touches there. So do not be surprised if you're looking at about 210 to 215 rushing attempts for DeAndre Swift and probably close to 125 to 130 carries for Jamaal Williams. And then we'll see how that passing game shakes out, but both are more than competent in that realm. Running back 3, Jamar Jefferson, Michael Warren. Go with the rookie, go with the second-year guy. I think Michael Warren is probably on the back end right now. Let's bring in some fresh blood. Let's go with Jamar Jefferson moving forward into that role. Now, we talked Detroit. We've talked Chicago. Now let's head over to the Mineesota Vikings and talk a little bit about Vikings football and what to expect in their training camp.
I'm feeling territory down here.
Already in field goal range. Cousins forgetting about the field goal, feeling one-armed, able to bring it down for the touchdown. What a grab.
Little jab inside, go outside. Buster's trying to play the eyes and hands. He gets kind of lost, and Adams just makes a great one-handed catch. And that right there is about as good.
Adam Thielen, he's an oldie, but he's a goodie. And you put him opposite of Justin Jefferson, and then you got a great 1-2 dynamic duo there in Minnesota for pass catchers there for Kirk Cousins to move to. Now, the question is going to be who that wide receiver 3 is going to be. Is it going to be BC Johnson? Is it going to be Chad Beebe, Amir Smith, Marset from Iowa? Are any of these guys going to step up and take that wide receiver role? Is there going to be value in that wide receiver 3, barring an injury? Probably not, but let's talk about it instead here. I think we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets there with Irv Smith Jr., Tyler Conklin. He's going to factor in here too as well. They're going to kind of split up those catches, those targets that were vacated by Kyle Rudolph there. 20 catches, 37 targets, 334 yards. So there's not a whole lot there for Johnson, Beebe, and even Conklin or Merced Smith there to pick up on. BC Johnson was actually a starter for the beginning of 2020, and Chad Beebe had some ups and downs that showed some potential, and then he lost it. Then he showed a little bit more. The consistency wasn't there. However, the rookie speedster, Amir Smith Marset, he could be up to see an increase in his abilities as the season progresses. I don't think he's going to be there right off the get-go. I think it's going to be Chad Beebe as a third wide receiver. I think they're going to go on that potential. He's going to step up over BC Johnson. And then by week 10, I think that's where Amir Smith Marset steps over into that wide receiver 3 role. If you look at Johnson versus Beebe, it's pretty much a dead heat. In 2020, Johnson, 14 receptions, 189 yards, 13.5 yards per reception. Beebe, on the other hand, 20 receptions, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns with a 10.1 yards per reception. You got Justin Jefferson, who's going to command a lot of the attention there. You've got Adam Thielen, who's going to work a lot underneath as well. Irv Smith Jr., he's going to be able to hit those seams and stretch defenses that way. So it's going to come down to the Minnesota Vikings wanting to stretch the field. Then maybe the rookie will see some time a little bit sooner than later. Now let's talk about that front on the defensive side of the ball for the Minnesota Vikings. Devastating loss off the get-go. Danielle Hunter went down with an injury. That really set the tone for this entire front for the Minnesota Vikings last year. They were 28th in 2020 in sacks with 23. The only teams that were worse than them at getting to the quarterback was Vegas, Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Cincinnati. And then on top of that, that wasn't bad enough for this defense. They gave up the 4th most points at 29.7 points per game and the 6th most yards per game with a 393.3 yards. Now, that's with Danielle Hunter missing the entire season. He is back. He's going to be back. And when he's healthy, 3 of his last 4 seasons, he's been over 12 sacks. The only time he didn't reach that 12 sack in the last 4 years was 2017, where he had 7 sacks. Huge difference maker. Now he's in the lineup. But now we got to flip to the other end of that defensive front and who's going to step up to be that opposite man to Danielle Hunter. The Vikings went and got Yannick Ngakoue last year, thinking that they'd have Danielle Hunter and Ngakoue as the pass rush there. Didn't work out. Hunter got hurt. Ngakoue moved on to Vegas via free agency. So let's take a look at the options there. Stephen Weatherly was there. Then he left for Carolina, and then he came back. You got Patrick Jones, the rookie, DJ Wonnum, second-year player, Janarius Robinson, the rookie out of Florida State, and Jalen Holmes, who also was there last year. And I don't know how this is going to shape out. I know, athletically speaking, Janarius Robinson is a freak. You look at his size, that wingspan, everything that goes into it. the Senior Bowl performance that he had down in Mobile, Alabama. These are all screaming, this is my guy moving forward. That said, it's going to be that open competition. I think it's going to go to the veteran right off the get-go. Stephen Weatherly's got to be that guy, gets that first shot at it. With that experience, he had 3 sacks in 2018, another 3 sacks the year before. 2020 was kind of a write-off for him. So in Carolina, I don't think he really did anything, to be honest with you. That's why it was a one-and-done type season there in Carolina. And then last year, Holmes had 36 tackles, didn't have any sacks. One of them had 24 tackles with 3 sacks. And Robinson and Jones are coming in from Florida State and Pittsburgh, respectively. So we'll see how this all factors in. I think Weatherly starts, but I really believe in the talent and the skill set and the size combination of Janarius Robinson to eventually take over that role in Minnesota opposite of Donnell Hunter. Now we got to go to the Kings of the North. I don't know how you talk about it. We're going to head to Green Bay next here and talk about the Green Bay Packers and what to expect in their training camp.
Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it. Touchdown, Packers. In the meantime, it's 2nd and 10. And time running out in the first half. Rodgers is going deep for Valdez-Scantling. And he's got it. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Packers. And looked like a Viking jump. Free play. Valdez-Scantling has it. He has a catch inside the 2. Rodgers, Lazard, and Alan Lazard has a Packer touchdown. Now he drops back.
Hey, we could probably sit though here and talk the entire time about the quarterback situation in Green Bay and who is not going to be under center. Aaron Rodgers recently turned down I believe a 2-year contract extension, massive, because you know what? Let's be honest. He may be the one person more petty than I am. And game respects game when it comes to the pettiness here. He tweeted out something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing here, congratulations to, as a minority owner, of course, of the Milwaukee Bucks. He's now got as many championships as a minority owner as he does as a franchise quarterback, mind you. But he tweets out, you know what? Good on the GM for putting a fantastic championship caliber type team out there together. Kudos to you. That's being paraphrased. But what it's going to come down to is if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, we're going to either talk about Jordan Love or Blake Bortles. And either way, I'm going to have absolute fun with this at the Packers fans' expense. You know what, Packers? You don't get to be sad because you went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and did not miss a beat there. So really, I don't say you deserve to have a little heartache at the quarterback position, but it's due. Now, let's kind of talk, or we could talk about A.J. Dillon's quads and which one is actually bigger. Is it Quadzilla or is it the Quadfather? I'd give the slight advantage in girth and size of the quad to Quadzilla. Now we're going to move on to where some information that actually matters to you that you probably want to listen to, and that is who's going to be the running mate opposite of Devontae Adams. Is it going to be Marquez Valdez-Scantling or is it going to be Alan Lazard? And then kind of who's that fourth wide receiver? Amari Rodgers, Equinus St. Brown, or Devin Funchess. Is Devin Funchess even a wide receiver, or is he a tight end now? Everyone seems to be a tight end. Maybe they could bring in Kelvin Benjamin to be a tight end too, if things don't work out for him. Let's take a look at this opposite. Valdez-Scantling played a career-high 73.9% of the snaps last year and led the NFL in yards per reception at 20.9. Valdez-Scantling has speed, does an excellent job clearing out, which is beneficial to Devontae Adams, where he's able to work underneath. And with Robert Tonyan, there's a lot of room to run there when Valdez-Scantling clears it out. And then you factor in a little bit of maybe Amari Rodgers, who's going to play a little bit of that gadget role, that Curtis Samuel kind of guy that we talk about. Their offense could be fun to watch, but let's keep going. On the flip side, Valdez-Scantling had one of the highest drop rates out there at 11.8, which was definitely a career worst for him. And Lazard was off to a terrific start in 2020. 13 catches, 254 yards, and 19.6 yards per average, 2 touchdowns in the first 3 games last year before suffering that core injury. And then that required surgery, kind of sidelined him. He was out for a while. I think it was about 2 months. And then when he came back, he wasn't quite playing at that elite level. It took him some time to get into it. But he wasn't that dynamic pass catcher. We've seen the highlights, some of the plays he's making, those extensions. It wasn't there in that back half of the season. And he only had 20 catches and 1 touchdown over the final 7 games. If you look at the speed, we've seen in the highlight there Scantling was getting that separation on those goal patterns. He was getting a little bit of distance there. That's because he runs a 4.37 as opposed to Lazard's 4.62. I don't care if you're a Lazard King fan. Lazard King. Is that a French lizard? I don't know. But for me, it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling playing opposite of Davante Adams, just based on the speed and his ability to separate and what Valdes-Scantling does for that offense moving forward. He's going to be the guy, wide receiver 2 there in Green Bay. Now, some of the other battles we're looking at are the battles at the linebacker position. At outside linebacker, Preston Smith versus Rashawn Gary. Gary's playing time kind of rose throughout the season. It went from 23.5 in 2019 to 44.4 in 2020. And then at the flip side, Preston Smith kind of saw that playing time slip from 83.7 down to 79.3 from 2019 to 2020. Gary ranked second on the team with sacks with 6.5 and second in pressures with 30, and that was despite playing less than half the snaps. On the other hand, Preston Smith seen those sacks kind of fall down from 12 in 2019 down to 4 last year, while his pressures also dropped from 45.5 to 19. You're seeing two players kind of go at the opposite end of the spectrum. Preston Smith may be given that respective veteran type start early on through training camp, but don't mistake yourself. This is a Rashawn Gary moving forward. Inside linebacker, you got Devondre Campbell coming over from Arizona, Kamel Martin, who's already been there, and Chris Barnes, who looked the part last year for the Green Bay Packers. Who's going to be that guy in the middle linebacker? Which one is out? Campbell finished with 99 tackles, 2 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, and a forced fumble in the desert last year. Barnes, who went undrafted in 2020, was by far Green Bay's best rookie. In fact, this season, Barnes surpassed Christian Kirksey, who they brought over via free agency. He supplanted him as the number 1 inside linebacker for Green Bay. He still led the team with 91 tackles, 4.5 tackles of those for loss. He only missed 6 tackles. He showed that consistency in that role in the linebacker. He showed that he can be that guy. And then you flip that to Kamel Martin there for IDP purposes. He missed the first 5 games, had some surgery to repair a meniscus in his knee there. And then he was one of the most undisciplined tacklers. He was missing tackles left, right, and center. That's not going to get the job done. Devondre Campbell, Chris Barnes, they're going to be your inside linebackers for the Green Bay Packers. We could get into the Kevin King versus Eric Stokes, but we all know why we're not going to talk Kevin King. At least Packers fans know why. Eric Stokes, I could see him taking that position pretty quickly, and I don't think Packers fans would disagree with me too much. That all said, this was my little bit of training camp battles preview for the NFC North. Make sure you keep on checking out these videos. Appreciate the support. We're going to keep pumping out videos and fresh content all the time. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you download on Apple or on Spotify because we got great content coming on the pipes you're not going to want to miss. Talk to you later. Catch ya.